Hello and welcome. Really delighted you could join us today. My name's Katie from Those Who Can. My job is basically to find opportunities for teachers who are either in the classroom or they're thinking of setting up their own business or looking to leave the classroom. And today we've got the wonderful Sarah who has done exactly that, haven't you? You were teaching and then you set up a business, and now that's it. That's what you do full time. So you're going to tell us a bit about your journey and your experiences today, and then share what you're offering. So, Sarah, do you want to do an introduction for people who don't know you?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Hi, everyone. It's funny when you can't see who you're talking to, but I'll just direct it to you. Yeah, good morning. So, yeah, my name is Sarah Capewell. I was a teacher for just under 17 years, which sounds awful when when you say it out loud, actually. But yeah, I was a teacher for a long time, and I left in 2021. I won't go into too much detail because I'm going to talk about that in a second when I put the slides on. But basically, I left. I became a tutor. I then grew an international business and became a business coach, and now mentor people all over the world. So it's been a very exciting 4 years.
That's a lot to kind of cram in 4 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
But yeah, wonderful. And to make that move from teaching and just to change your sort of lifestyle and how you're living, because we get to a point, don't we, where we just sometimes need a new challenge.
yes.
And setting up a business on your own, we've both done it, and it's really exciting, isn't it? You can just manage your time better, you can manage that work-life balance better, so it's a really exciting opportunity. So it would be great to hear a bit more about this.
Yeah, definitely. If you're happy to put the slides on for me, Katie, that's okay. It's my very
No
glamorous assistant.
problem.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'm going to talk to you today about your next chapter, which is the name of the program, but also very much in line with supporting teachers with their next step. So, if you're happy, I can move the slides myself, even better. Okay, so I don't even need a glamorous assistant. So, yeah, I'll just sort of gloss over this quite quickly, but I think it's just important to give you a bit of context. And I kind of wanted people to see that I was also a teacher. I have been there, so I understand completely what it's like to have that sense of wanting more freedom or wanting more creativity. So I've built a tutoring business, and I support students globally, and I've supported lots of other tutors and business owners who feel that the job that they started is not where they are today. So this, I kind of want to I suppose, make it clear that I'm not here to tell you that, to quit teaching right now or next month or next term, but I want to kind of show you what's possible when you start thinking a little bit differently, when you start asking questions and asking the right questions. So that's really what I'm here to talk about today. So I really feel, and this is based on research and conversations with lots of teachers, that teaching very much has changed, whether it's the pressure, the politics, but the pace at which people are leaving and the conversations I'm having with teachers is huge. And I know that many teachers stay because they are scared, understandably, of what they might do afterwards, or they don't have a plan, or they settle for something that they are that perhaps doesn't suit them. So there are so many conversations going around right now. I'm not going to be focusing on the negatives or lots of the reasons why people are leaving teaching, but I just think it's important to kind of recognise that is the situation right now. So I suppose what I want to talk about is the fact that there is another way, and this isn't about having another job description or trying to retrain in a different way. It's about thinking about where your skills, where your current ambitions are, which may change, and where your values really align. And that is what I wanted to explore with you today, Katie, and with everybody who is watching. So if you jump in at any time, by the way, Katie, don't just let me talk. It's no problem. Okay, so I'm sorry that I don't know why it's formatted really weirdly. It was fine before, so I apologise that there are ticks in places where they shouldn't be. But I suppose what I wanted to talk about as well is what's possible. And it's not that you don't have to be a business influencer, you don't have to retrain or start right back at the beginning. So I wanted to give you some examples of what some of my clients are doing right now. Some of them are running profitable tutoring businesses in really niche subjects. Some are working internationally with students in China, the Middle East, and Europe. We've got some of people creating digital products and courses and group programs, supporting schools, combining well-being and coaching, which goes brilliantly with teaching experience. So there are loads of opportunities for teachers, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about why we as teachers make, I think, the best kind of transition between industries because of our skill set. Okay, so those people, they're not unicorns. They're not these sort of magic creatures that have skill set that nobody else has. They are teachers who started asking better questions and they got the right support. And certainly this, from my experience, having the right mentor can help you shift things faster than perhaps you think. And sometimes it is just that first brave step and just taking action, which is what we're going to be talking a little bit about. So I just want to pause and talk about one of my clients who is called Lee. And by the way, any testimonials or any case studies, anybody that I talk about today, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will see all of the testimonials on there and their contact details. So they're all real people who I've worked with. So Lee came to me. He just left the classroom. I think it was like a week after he'd left the classroom, and he was overwhelmed. He didn't know what he wanted to do next. He came to work with me, and he felt at the beginning that he didn't have anything unique to offer. And I think there was a sense of, well, there are loads of teachers out there, and what do I have that's any different? So there was a lot of work on mindset and belief, but also a lot of business strategy and things that perhaps he hadn't considered about. And he's now built an international tutoring business, and he supports students from Europe to Asia. And he's now moving on to creating an immersive summer program for European students, and really using his background and his expertise as a languages teacher in order to build something where there is a demand. And when I talk about having a niche, this is what I mean, having something that you're passionate about, something that you're interested in. But this came about after several sessions with me. It wasn't the first session. It wasn't front and center for him. It was something that we came to over time. But I wanted to kind of show that this is a journey that he's been on with me in order to discover something about himself that he already possesses, and is now leveraging it. So the difference to Lee is that I worked with him to give him a clear strategy, so that he was then able to see the journey ahead of him, so that he had confidence in his value, and I, in a really nice way, held him accountable. So I think, and I'm sure you've seen this, Katie, that we can easily drift, and if we are not given that really tailored support and somebody who really sort of checks in with you and helps you to focus and have a sense of belief, things can drift. And when I first left the classroom, that's what I was lacking. And I think that it was because of that I had a slightly meandering journey to start with. So I just wanted to talk about him. There are tons of other clients that I could have talked about. I'm going to show you some testimonials in a minute, but certainly from my point of view, Lee is a brilliant case study and somebody who took action and was really open to opportunities. And I think that's really important. And I'm sure you would agree with that, Katie. Okay, yeah. So sorry, go on. Sorry. You say something.
No, I was going to say about that word accountability. That's the thing, isn't it? Because anyone can sort of set up a business if they want to, and millions of people have done this, billions of people have done this. But I think this idea about holding yourself accountable. So that's where I feel like coaching, it really helps, exactly like you are in the classroom. You're coaching and mentoring those young people in a particular subject or a key stage. And that's important that you have that like support, I think, but you're holding yourself accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, on that note, I think teachers make excellent coaches because we are compassionate, we are empathetic, we listen, we really take the time to support people. And one of the reasons I trained as a coach, and I have a diploma in transformational coaching, was to sort of take it to that next level and to really be able to give business owners, tutors, teachers in my world that sort of extra layer of support. So I've just put 3 examples here of people who have worked with me, and again, you can see them all on LinkedIn. I'm not going to read them, but I just wanted to show you that the support that I give and that kind of that focus to allow people to really, be the very best versions of themselves. I think that's hugely important, and that's something that I really, I hold dear to. I don't know why they look like this, Katie. It's really weird because it's so strange, but I can promise you when I checked through all these, they were all very, very clear. So I just thought these are career paths that people have gone into from teaching who have worked with me, either in a group program or one-to-one. And I just thought it would be worth looking at some of them because these are all industries that they did not retrain. This is sort of skills that they already had. So I had somebody, this is Lee, who is now designing these immersive travel experiences, and he is working with clients in Spain to bring students over to the UK. I've had a client who does voiceover work, and I remember in one of the sessions we had, I must have said something about, gosh, you've got such a beautiful voice, it really resonates and it's really reassuring. And then over time, we then developed this program for them, and they are now doing voiceover work, which is just fantastic. And they've actually done some books for not Audible, but a different platform. And I just think that's such a wonderful and perhaps unexpected journey for them. I've got quite a few people who launched sort of as VAs, and I couldn't live without my VA. I think they are incredible. And online business management, and whether that is managing launches for people, creating content for sort of creative industries and coaches like me, product-based businesses. I've got a few people who have gone into that, whether it's from an educational standpoint or journals, affirmation cards, stationery, which is my biggest love outside of education. So I was very supportive of that one. Ghostwriting. So I was an English teacher, and I still write all the time. And I've worked with a number of other English teachers who have then gone on to become book coaches. So helping people to bring out their voice in terms of nonfiction, but also ghostwriting, which is a huge industry. I don't think I realised quite how big an industry ghostwriting was until I started working with this client and we researched it. Branding is another one, content creation, using Canva to really bring people's messages to life. And then another one which kind of works really well with teachers is this idea of slow living and lifestyle brands. Now, slow living, I think, is very much the opposite of how we live or lived as teachers, which is very much, I would say, a fast pace. But I think because we can really appreciate what it means to sort of slow down, take a break, and the benefits it has, that's lent itself really well to a lot of the teachers I've worked with. So these are just some of the career paths that people have taken when they've worked with me. And you can see that they are a whole array of industries and sectors. But I think the point I wanted to make is that these are all things that they did without having to retrain. So they were already kind of innately interested in these areas, or we sort of drew them out over time. But I think that they're fascinating and a little bit different in some cases. I very much, I suppose I haven't mentioned here tutoring because for some, or for most teachers, I guess that's an obvious career path. And I say that as somebody who went into tutoring because it was a natural sort of transition for me to do at that time, and everything had gone online after COVID. But I think it's not the only option. That's something that I really want to focus on today, that it might seem the natural step, but for many teachers, that is not what they want to be doing. You know, they want to leave the classroom and do something completely different. So this is something that I think is really important to mention, that it isn't about reinvention. It isn't about, oh, sorry, you disappeared then. It isn't about reinvention. It's about remembering who you are. And actually, that comes from taking time away from the classroom and having that moment yourself, which is one of the reasons I think we're doing this in the Easter holidays. Hopefully, people have had that chance to have a bit of a pause. But I want to kind of flip the question. So it isn't what could I do if I leave teaching, but rather what do I actually want to be known for? And tell me what you think, Katie, but I feel that as teachers, these are some of the things that we already possess. So whether it's deep emotional intelligence, leadership under pressure, which I feel that I had to demonstrate a lot, clear communication, a talent for breaking things down, which I think is something that we have to do every day in the classroom, creativity, strategy, and stamina. And I think, yeah, so Katie, what are your thoughts on that? Because they're the kind of the key ones that came to me when I was planning this.
Yeah, I think, that's absolutely right. And this idea, like you say, about breaking things down, we do it all the time. We restructure things in different ways, don't we, for different audiences. And so that's great, not just for children, but for parents and different stakeholders that are invested in the school. We change things all the time. So I think this idea about not reinventing yourself is really important, because actually what we want to do is something we love. And, if you can make money out of something you genuinely enjoy, I think that's a brilliant way to go about it. So, yeah, this is interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's when you apply all of these things, what what happens then? What is the next step? And I think it isn't, the first brave step, I've put that here, it isn't a job title. It's giving yourself permission to kind of go in a different direction, or to dream, or to wonder about something else that could be out there for you. And I think that's hugely important. And it is this idea that your strengths are your starting point. And I've heard this and I've thought this, which is I'm not sure what I'd even be good at outside of teaching. And I was told when I had my doubts about teaching, I went to somebody I trusted and I said, look, what could I be doing outside of teaching? I don't want to be doing this forever. And they said, well, there isn't anything else you could do. You're pretty much just, you've trained to be a teacher and that's it. And actually, that was probably the worst thing I could have been told at the time. But the point is, we have a brilliant skill set. I hear that a lot, but actually it is true that there are so many things that we can do as teachers. And I remember just mind mapping all the stuff that I did in a typical day, and that really helped me. But I think that, the truth is, we use, or you use in the classroom, high value, high level skills every day. And it just might be that you haven't been encouraged or supported to name them and own them. So I think the first thing you can do is think, well, what do people always ask you for help with? I was always being asked to present things. So they would say, Sarah, you're a good public speaker. Would you mind doing this presentation? Or would you mind looking at this and rewriting it for me? Now, I think had I been encouraged more at the time, I probably would have gone in a completely different direction in terms of presenting and writing. But that was, that was never something that was revealed to me at the time. But what comes naturally to you that others find hard? And I bet there are tons of things that the SLT or your head teacher says, oh, we'll get Katie to do that because, that's her thing. And often we wear many, many hats within the classroom, and we often don't perhaps appreciate how skilled that is. But this is a really good one, is what do you wish you were paid for? And I firmly believe that we can all do something that we love. I am proof of that. And I would say that I am no more skilled than any other teacher in the classroom. The difference between me and perhaps those who are still in the classroom is that, yes, I took that first step, but also I very much invested in myself, and I sort of placed that belief in myself, and I saw where it would take me. So it's really about, it's not necessarily gaining more skills. Absolutely, you can retrain as something else. I'm not saying that, but it's about getting clearer on the skills that you already have and then developing them. And I think that is hugely important. So again, these are real stories, these are real results. So I've had one client who's turned her very much empathetic and sort of active listening skills into a thriving business where she coaches teams to really develop positive thinking, mindset and belief. Another one who is a brilliant, she does lots of fantastic things on Canva that just blow my mind, because I'm very much at the early tech stage of that, but she now creates digital GCSE revision packs, and she's now started creating packs for parents, which have gone down a treat. And then we've got Lee, who combined connection and culture into building these UK immersion programs. I would say that for me, I leaned very much into these 4 areas. Writing, so I write all the time. I absolutely love it, whether it's blog posts, I write children's books, and one day I know that I will be published. I just have to keep going. But I leaned into strategy, which is something I learned from being, a senior leader in schools, coaching, because that's something that I felt that was a skill that I was already sort of kind of had developed in the classroom. And then global networking. So I put this on a post a couple of days ago. If somebody had told me 4 years ago that I would be traveling to China on a business trip to develop a global network, I doubt I would have believed them. But that's something that I did and got back 3 weeks ago. And I think the point is that I leaned into my strengths and my interests to build a global business. And then I now mentor other people to do the same. So it isn't about doing more, it's about sort of recognizing what you already have and bringing that out. And I think that's hugely important in order to be both happy and successful. So in terms of, that's probably a good moment to pause. I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if Katie, you wanted to kind of bring something out before I just briefly talk about the program that I am running for teachers.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. Abdul's mentioned about the limiting self-beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so natural for teachers because we are in a really fast-paced environment, aren't we? That we don't have time to reflect on the things that we've done really well. So I think it's always good to sort of take a moment before you think about those next steps. Like Sarah was saying, just giving yourself permission to start with is important. But I would reflect on the things that you're really proud of from your teaching career. You know, what have you done really well? And another good task that I've heard is finding the proof that you are rubbish at something, and trying to sort of back that up. And I think that's an interesting idea because we end up struggling, don't we? And just sort of almost sort of convincing ourselves that we're rubbish at something, whereas actually, if we really look at it, we're probably not that bad. Do you come across that with your coaching?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of it, you know, we do a huge amount of work on mindset. And again, I'm not speaking for every teacher in every school, but there's a huge amount of pressure on school leaders and with funding and budget cuts. But that can often filter through to staff as feeling, you know, that undervalued, you know, devalued, and, you know, that they are not appreciated. And that can massively affect mindset. And confidence. So a lot of the work I do is unpicking that, is sort of unraveling that and really getting to the heart of how they are feeling and how we can develop that and how we can change that. But I think there's a lot of external factors that really weigh heavily. And I think when you're in the midst of that and you're sort of in the weeds, I suppose, it is so hard to see anything beyond that moment. Or, you know, I used to count down until the half term. And then, like so many teachers, I would get to the holiday and I would generally speaking be ill. And I think because my body was sort of on high alert almost during term time, that by the time I got to the holidays, my body kind of almost gave up on me. So it's really difficult to sometimes pick out those positives. They are there. It's just being able to extract them. And because I've been out of the classroom now for 4 years and I have worked predominantly with teachers and tutors, I can see those patterns and I can see those traits, and I think it helps that I was there as well and I had that and I understand that. So I don't know if I've answered your question. I've just gone off on a completely different tangent, Katie. Sorry.
No, I think that's it, isn't it? You know, that it is just a lot going on, and to reflect on those moments. And like I say, in the holidays, you don't often have time for that because you're then recovering and you're planning for those next steps as well. So it's definitely worth that reflection. Joe's got an interesting question here about money. And I think this is probably common for lots of teachers thinking about setting up their own business. Money to kind of set up to start with, and then sort of funding and loans, which there are loads, absolutely loads. And the more I've looked into it, the more I've found, and there's grants and all sorts of support. But it's interesting, the money one, because for me, I set up my business whilst I was teaching. I don't know if you did the same, Sarah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so I had my wage and I was able to find the energy. I don't even know how, because teaching's really full on, but find the energy and commit to that. And, you know, I had a sort of timetable of the evening after I put the kids to bed. This is what I was doing for the business and this is how I was building it. But I didn't have to start with lots of money. I did get some funding from a growth hub, and we had to sort of match fund it. So that's how I built my website originally. What about yourself, Sarah? How did you work the sort of money side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I started small. I did what you did. So I started tutoring alongside teaching, because I wasn't able to make that leap cold. You know, I didn't have money to invest in another business or in another sector. So I was basically doing two things at the same time. You know, looking back, it was pretty hard. I was teaching full time and I was tutoring between 12 and 15 hours a week. So it was fairly mammoth. And I don't quite know how I sustained it now, but I think if I could sort of go back in time, I don't think I would necessarily change anything because it helped me. But I now know, because I work a lot with chambers of commerce and I belong to lots of business groups. So I now know where funding is and what's worth applying for. And I'm currently going through with my with one of my sort of colleagues. We are looking at funding opportunities for the sort of China-facing part of our business, because we do a lot of services with Chinese clients. So we are going through the Department of Business and Trade. So it has taken me a long time to kind of work out where the pots of money are. And with all of the changes that are going on right now, I know that the pots of funding won't be coming in just yet. It's going to be in the next sort of 2 or 3 months that will be announced. But I'm working with one client right now to look at how we can get funding and grants in order to be able to get them set up as a bit of a career counsellor. It's quite a niche focus they're looking at, but there are pots of money out there. You have to be almost forensic in your approach, because there can be a lot of hoops to jump through. I know that one funding application I filled in, it was something like 100 pages, which is, it takes a huge amount of time and effort. But they do exist. It's just knowing where to look for them and what you're going to use them for, whether that is match funding or whether that it is a grant or whether it is a business loan. But yeah, they are definitely, those pots of money do exist. It's just finding them and being able to really, I write a lot, so it was easier for me to be able to write bids and applications, but for some people it can be quite overwhelming to do that. So I can understand that it's stressful.
Yeah, and different businesses have different sort of pressure points with money. I didn't need to buy anything physical apart from the website. That just, everything was online for me. But there are local sort of group sessions, free sessions that you can go to where you can learn a bit more about it. And I went to one in Bournemouth the other day, and it was all about the positive side of getting into debt for the business. And they had a guest speaker there who he's running a £1 million business now, but back in the day where he had to borrow to get a particular printing machine, and then he had to borrow to get another printing machine, and then he had to get into debt to get a warehouse. And all of that is scary, but I think if you do the right sort of projections, this is what they were talking about, and you you really think about why you need that, and that you can prove that you've got that need, then it's okay to get into a bit of debt for your business. For me, that wasn't an option because I had 3 kids, so I think that sort of made it a little bit different, that I didn't like to take that risk. But that's for me. Whereas actually sometimes taking a little bit of risk is an important thing for business owners to do, and that's okay as well. So you can do 2 different routes. You can do, like Sarah and I, the slow and steady. We've built up in our niche, and then we started to add products and services to that niche. Or you can just go sort of full in, and it's depends on what kind of risk you like to take, I guess.
Yeah, completely. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Any other questions?
Abdul was asking about like running your own business. What are the sort of main challenges, and what are the challenges that your clients also face? Because obviously we've talked a bit about tutoring. So it'd be nice to hear about some of your other clients and how you help them.
Yeah, I think for many of the clients that I work with, the challenges come from overwhelm to begin with, and what their focus should be. And I think this does come from the classroom, which is doing 50 things at once often, and then trying to decide what to prioritize. So a lot of the work I do with my clients is having a strategy, is having a plan, and sort of sticking to it. So we do quarterly, annually, and sort of 5-year plans, so they can see the big picture, so they can see the vision, and really thinking about, well, what is it that you want to get out of this? We do mission and vision statements, so we can really think about where you are right now, what you want this business to look like, and where you want it to go. But I think some of the challenges are often around managing all of the many things that you need to do as a business owner. And to start with, you are Chief Marketing Officer, and you are the Chief Financial Officer, and you are everything within the business. And it's being able to really kind of function with all of those hats, and then learning how to outsource. And I think you're absolutely right that it's also about embracing some risk and really taking that jump. But I think whether my clients, and I'm just trying to think of the ones I have right now, whether they are also coaches, or whether they are, so if they're service providers, or if they are selling a product, it is very much about managing all of the things they need to do, and strategizing really, really carefully. And sort of what they find is that by me kind of being by their side, and not just holding them accountable, but keeping them on the right track, and not letting them get both distracted by shiny things or this idea of imposter syndrome, which I think it comes through all the time with my clients. I don't know if I can do this. Who am I to say this? Who am I to do this? So a lot of what I do is on mindset, is about, my accreditation is on just transformational coaching. So it's helping people to really become the best version of themselves with sort of targeted support. So I suppose in a nutshell, that's probably one of the main things that I see sort of time and time again as challenges.
Thank you, Sarah. Has anyone else got any questions that they'd like to ask Sarah or myself about setting up a business? And I think the challenges for me, I guess a lot of people sort of think about this, about not having school holidays anymore.
Yes.
Which is a really interesting one, because it doesn't really bother me, even though I do have young children who still need time and support during the school holidays. But it's interesting with your own business. You can be so very flexible with it, can't you? When you start work and when you don't, and putting some structure in place for yourself. I guess the downside is that you might never switch off from your business, but if you genuinely love what you're doing, it kind of doesn't matter, because it's sort of like a hobby, but it's a hobby that makes money for me, I think.
Do you know what, Katie? I think that's a really good point. I'd worked in state schools and then I worked in private school. So the holidays were, I think, 17, 18 weeks a year. And I remember thinking, gosh, how am I going to manage without that? But actually, because I'm not exhausted, because I'm not drained, and because I genuinely love what I do, I don't feel the need to have that many holidays. But the autonomy and the flexibility is something that a lot of the clients I work with, they want that with it built into their business. So it's one of the things that we look at, and as well as the kind of the financial aspect. So how many holidays do you want to have a year, and how can we make that happen for you together, so that you've got that sense of reassurance? I think is hugely important. And my husband is Swedish. I live between England and Sweden, so I needed something that gave me that flexibility to work when I wanted to and have the time off when I wanted to. But I think that can be a really massive leap for teachers to have, I think, in their almost understanding that even without having 14, 15, 16 weeks a year off, that your life is built around what you want and your own terms. You're not answerable necessarily to anybody else. So you don't feel, I think, that same compulsion to need the rest in the way that I certainly did when I was in the classroom.
I do find as well, Sarah, from having spoken to thousands of teachers, you've probably done the same, who have made the leap and have left the classroom, that they actually go out midweek. And I don't know about you when you were teaching, I never went out midweek. Never. I mean, I had a sports commitment that I had to do once a week, and I used to sometimes almost cry because I had to go and support my team and turn up. Whereas now I do the same sport like twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, because I have the headspace, I have the energy. And not once do I think I'm going to cancel. I'm always the first one on the WhatsApp going, yes, I can make it this Thursday, no problem. And I think this is the really interesting thing that about just getting a little bit of time back for yourself. Like, it's amazing that you've dedicated time to the classroom. It's a great profession. Sarah's in it for 17 years. I was in it for 19 years. We love teaching. It's not about leaving that. It's about moving forward to something that genuinely you want to do and is going to make you happier and balance your sort of work. So give you a better work-life balance. The amount of teachers that I hear, and they're potentially they're on a lower salary, especially if you're starting to run your business in the beginning, you are on a lower salary. It's amazing where you can cut down on money. We all live to our means, don't we? And I think for us, it was just, I haven't even missed the chunk of money that, when I first set up the business and then I first left teaching and I was in that kind of grey area, there was nothing that I missed financially. I was okay. I could cover it. And there were things that maybe I wanted that I didn't buy. But that's the sort of realistic element of it. And, as you build that up, you can then sort of be more confident, can't you, with money and pricing and those sort of areas. And then it can be similar or better than teaching. And lots of teachers who've set up their own businesses, they all say they're earning more than they were teaching.
Absolutely. And completely. And I echo that because that was my journey. But I think, I'll talk briefly about the program, because that it will fit in with that. But certainly pricing is a huge part of it. So understanding your value, understanding your worth, but also really embracing this kind of abundance mindset that actually this is how much, if money is a fact, and it's a factor for everybody, we can't pretend otherwise, we need it to get by, but it's also looking at, okay, well, how much money do you want to bring in, and how are we going to make that happen? How are we going to create those opportunities? I think that's hugely important. So is it okay if I kind of just briefly move on to this, because it's part of that?
Yeah, so, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of, what your brave next step might be, I'm just going to talk about 3 different ways that you can take that action, supported by me. So I'll just go through, and again, I'm sorry it looks like this. It did look really lovely and aligned on my slides. So I am running a program called Your Next Chapter. You might have guessed that from the name. And it is for teachers who are ready to build a business and a life on their own terms. It starts straight after May half term, 3rd of June. All the sessions will be in the evening. Because I wanted to make sure that full-time teachers could come. It is going to be £1,500 for the 4 months, and it's the only time it will be that. The next time it runs, it will be full price of £3,000. And for anybody who signs up now, then you can get an extended 5-month payment plan so that it can be as flexible for you as you need it to be. There's also a digital course and digital products that you get free access to, and a bonus month of one whole month of live coaching and support for May. So we would be starting in the next 2 weeks, because it's almost May, isn't it? And for anybody who's unsure and you want to get to know me and how I work and how I support my clients, I'm running 2 completely free workshops next week. So hopefully that still works for people's Easter holidays. So it's the 16th and 17th of April at 9:30, and you will be able to get a sense of the kind of work that we would be doing together, but also ask me any questions. And if those dates don't work for you, then you can book a call with me and we can talk through, what you're looking for. The QR code is there. So if you scan that will take you to the page which tells you all about Your Next Chapter. I didn't want to kind of go into huge amounts of detail here, but it talks about the sessions, the focus, and all of the extra bits and pieces that you get. So you can also ask any questions and contact me through that as well. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be offering from the 2nd of June, which I'm really excited about.
It's a really exciting program, and I think having a coach, I had a business coach, I still have a business coach. The amount of value that someone has from the outside looking in, and that accountability, like each week I am, making sure that I've done the things that my coach has asked. And some of them I think, oh, that's a strange thing to ask, but I do them. And what's really interesting, I think, as teachers is that, we don't really know how the rest of the world works. So it's kind of quite nice to have someone who's tried and tested it in your corner. So yeah, I mean, I definitely value that support. I think the program that you've created as well, I've had a look at it. It just looks so thorough, and I think it's just about investing in yourself. If you're ready to make that step, isn't it? You invest in yourself. You invest in a program that's going to get you there, because otherwise we just fall back on what we know all the time, which is teaching. And if and that's fine, but if you're genuinely ready to make the change, then it's worth having someone in your corner, and at half the price as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you and I have talked before. We've done programs before, and you will have seen that when I launched it for your sort of audience, it was half the price to sort of as the beta group before then going on to full price. So I think for anybody who might be interested and they are thinking, well, I'm not really sure what I get out of it, then do feel free to contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and we can have a call. But I really wanted to create something that by the end of those 4 months, that any teacher is really that has clarity on where they're going, how they're going to do it, and there is something really tangible for them. So it isn't a woolly program. It's very much founded on business strategy and mindset woven into that, but also having access to experts who've helped me, whether that's my husband, who's an investor and who does all of the finance things, whether it's other sort of business strategy people within my network. But it's having everything there to give you the confidence and the belief and sort of this understanding what your skills are to kind of unlock that next part of your journey.
Yeah. And the webinar that you've got next week, you've got 2 webinars. They just pick one of those dates?
They can come to one if they want to, or they can come to both. They are going to be, they're 2 separate topics, but they're very much linked to Your Next Chapter. the program, so that they can see exactly what will be involved, but also get to know. I think it's important, if I'm going to be by their side for 4 months and I'm going to be checking in with them all the time, we're going to have this community feel. I want teachers to really feel like, yeah, okay, I get Sarah, and I feel like I can work with her and she can support me. So it was very much to give people a sort of a peek behind the curtain as well.
Yeah, nice. And how long are those sessions? Are they?
They're 60 minutes. Yeah, they're 60 minutes,
okay.
and they'll be recorded. So if people can't come but they're really intrigued, then I will send them the recording as well, and they can also ask me questions afterwards.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So before we wrap up, are there any questions that you've got for Sarah and myself about businesses? Are there any questions that you've got for Sarah about her program that she's running? Feel free just to type them in the chat, and we'll answer them. And if not, we can sort of wrap up, can't we, Sarah?
Okay, well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Katie. It was lovely to chat to you as always.
Yeah, no, it's great to chat, and it's great to to have these teachers sitting here now sort of excited about their next journey, because that's it, isn't it? It shouldn't be a sort of scary thing.
No.
It should be an exciting thing that you're looking forward to, and whether that's a full-time job with a different organization or setting up a business for yourself, that's important, and there are people there to help you all the way. So if you want business coaching, Sarah is probably going to be a good fit because she understands your background. But if she isn't and you don't resonate with her, no problem. You have to find someone who works for you, don't you?
Of course you do, yeah, and it might not be me, and that's totally fine. I think it's important that there is that, that there is that positive relationship, and that people really see the worth that I bring to them and the value I bring to them. But yeah, absolutely, I think finding support, whoever that is the first step.
It is, isn't it? Aisha's got a question here about a website. So, I guess, Aisha, it depends what kind of business you're setting up. I feel, and Sarah might say I'm wrong, but I feel if you're setting up a tutoring business, that potentially you don't need a website as a first step. You could perhaps create a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page, business page. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Sarah, in terms of tutoring to start with, and then we'll think about other.
Yeah, I think if it's tutoring that you're looking for, then it depends what you want as an audience. So for my Chinese clients, they can't see my website, therefore it doesn't matter. But in terms of getting clients, LinkedIn is brilliant for finding educational agents and sort of large scale companies. Instagram is brilliant for parents. So I think to start with, I don't think a website is necessary, but having a presence on social media and being consistent is really important, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all of these things you can build slowly with purpose. Yes, you don't need to rush in and, use all your savings at once to get where you need to go. Ask for support. I mentioned it in the chat. There's growth hubs, there's local enterprise partnerships that you can go and have a chat to as well to think about starting your business, and they'll offer you free advice. And then, coaching, I think, is a great way to sort of push yourself forward with that business. Yeah. I know I probably wouldn't have my business as it is today without a coach in my corner. So yeah, very much appreciate what coaches do. So thank you everyone for attending today. It's been really lovely to talk to you again, Sarah. And do scan the QR code and join her on those workshops if you're interested in learning more.
Sorry, I've just seen someone's just done a question. So signing up to the free workshops, that's a really good question. So it might just be easier if I put my email address in. Can you put my email address in the chat, Katie? Because the QR code will take you straight through to your next chapter and signing up. So if you want to email me to come to the workshop next week, then I will send you the registration link for that. That is not a problem. That's probably the easiest thing to start with. If that is okay.
That's fine.
But I am on.
Sorry,
LinkedIn.
I'm just making sure I've got your Sarah.
Sarah.EnglishCoach, I have to think then. Sarah.EnglishCoach@gmail.com.
I had to think as well. So .com. I couldn't remember if it was .co.uk or .com. So I was like, I don't want to put it in.
There we go. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to just email me and say I'd like to come to the workshop, I will send you the registration link. And if you wanted to have a chat as well, just let me know.
Yeah, That's brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you've got sunshine where you are. And yeah, thank you again, Sarah, for your time.
No worries. Thanks, Katie. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.